Good morning, Sairam children, and welcome to the third part of Political Science, chapter number 3, that is Electoral Politics. Okay, so children, before moving further, let's take a quick recap what we have learned in the previous video. So in previous video, we have learned what is our system of elections. Election procedure. So, first is election procedure started with the announcement of dates. Okay, the election procedure in India is started with the announcement of dates. The next, nomination of candidates. After the announcement of dates, the candidate file their nomination papers. The next step is scrutinizing of nomination paper. The nomination paper are scrutinized on the fixed date. So, the incomplete or incorrect papers are rejected by the commission. Then after that, withdrawal of nomination. If any candidate want to withdraw his or her name, so the candidate are given a date for the withdrawal of their names. Then the publication of the final list. After the withdrawal, the final list is printed. Election symbols are allotted to the candidates. The next after that, election campaign. When the list of the eligible candidates gets printed by the returning officer, the different political parties launch their election campaigns to canvass for their candidates. Now polling, that means public holiday, as we know that public holiday is declared on the polling or election day so that each voter may exercise his vote. And counting votes. Now after the election is over, the counting personnels are appointed by the election officer who at the fixed place and at the fixed time started their counting work in the presence of the returning officer. And the last, declaration of results. After the counting of votes is over, the election officers declares the candidates getting the maximum votes elected. Is it clear? So this is what we have learned in the previous video. Now in this video, our next topic is unfair practices in election. So children, a lot of unfair practices in elections are reported by newspapers and televisions. Like for example, inclusion of false name and exclusion of genuine names from the voter list. Sometimes they misuse of government facilities and officials by the ruling party. Excessive use of money by the rich candidates and big parties during the election time. Intimidations of voters and rigging on the polling day. Now, rigging means fraud and malpractices. Rigging means fraud and malpractices indulged by a party or a candidate to increase its vote. Now it includes stuffing ballot boxes by a few persons using the votes of others, recording multiple votes by the same person, and sometimes they bribing the polling officers to favor a candidate. Clear? Okay. Now next we have what makes election in India democratic. So as I said, the unfair practices are not on a scale to affect the various, or we can say that affect the very purpose of elections. The elections in India are conducted in a democratic manner, and this is ensured because of the following factors. Now first we have Independent Election Commission. right? So what makes elections in India democratic? So here we are going to discuss 4 important conditions that make election democratic. First, we have Independent Election Commission. Then second, we have popular participation. The third one is the acceptance of election outcome. And after that, the most important is the regular election. So, let's start with the first, Independent Election Commission. Now, children, in our country, elections are conducted by an independent and a very powerful election commission. Right? In our country, elections are conducted by an independent and a very powerful election commission. Now, the important points related to this commission are given here. First of all, election commission is headed by Chief Election Commissioner, and Chief Election Commissioner appointed by the President of India. Clear? The Chief Election Commissioner appointed by the President of India. Now, once appointed, the Chief Election Commissioner is not answerable either to the President or the government. Even if the ruling party or the government does not like what he does, then also it is virtually impossible to remove the Chief Election Commissioner. Is it clear? So, Election Commissioner is an independent and has a wide range of powers. Now, the Election Commission has been bestowed with the following powers to ensure democratic election. Now, first, the Election Commission takes decision on every aspect of conduct and control of elections, from the announcement of the election to the declaration of the election. Clear? Election Commission takes decision on every aspect of conduct and control of the elections, like from the starting, that means from the announcement of the elections to the end, to the declaration of the result. Next, it also implements the code of conduct and also punish any candidate or party that violates it. Now, code of conduct means Election Commission, they set some norms or guidelines, and these guidelines and norms followed by the candidates and the political party during the election campaigning. Okay, so it implements the code of conduct. Now, during the election period, the Election Commission can order. During the election period, the Election Commission can order the government to follow some guidelines to prevent use and misuse of government power. Why? To enhance its chances to win elections or to transfer some government officials. Now, when on the election duty, the government officers, all the government officers, they work under the control of Election Commission, not the government. Okay? When the election duty, all the government officers, they work under the control of Election Commission, not the government. Now, in last 25 years, the Election Commission has begun to exercise its power extensively. Now, here are the following actions of the Election Commission make this clear. First, like the Election Commission reprimands the government and administration for their lapses. And when the Election Commission is of the opinion that polling was not fair in some booth or in an entire constituency, then it can order for a repoll. Basically, whenever election commissioner, EC means election commissioner, whenever election commissioner feels polling was not fair, at that time he or she can order for a repoll. Clear? Now, let's read the functions of the Election Commission. Now, the main functions of the Election Commissions are as under. First of all, the most important, the supervision, direction and control of elections. Next, to conduct elections and to look after all the issues that connected with the elections. It also supervises the machinery of election throughout the country so that elections are held in a free and fair manner. Next function is to conduct the elections of member of both the houses of parliament, member of legislative assemblies and legislative council of various states. Even it also gives recognitions to political parties as all Indian parties or regional parties on the basis of votes received by them in the last elections. Election Commission also allots symbols of various political parties and independent candidates. To give opinion to the President of India about the possibilities of holding elections in a state under President's rule after the expiry of 6th month. Now, to advise the President or Governor on the matters pertaining to disqualification of a legislator. So, to conduct by-election also for filling up vacancies in Parliament or any state legislature. Election Commissioner are also responsible for this, to conduct by-election. Okay. Now, next is the popular participation. Now, the another way to check the quality of the election process is to see whether people have participated in it with enthusiasm or not. So, here are the following points are important in this context. First, people's participation in election is measured by voter turnout figure. Now, turnout figure means the percentage of eligible voters. The percentage of eligible voters who cast their votes in an election. Clear? Turnout means the percentage of eligible voters who cast their votes in an election. In India, the turnout has either remained stable or has gone up. Basically, over the last 50 years, almost 50 years, the turnout in Europe and North America has declined. But in India, the turnout has either remained stable or has actually gone up. In India, the poor, illiterate and underprivileged people, they vote in large proportion as compared to the rich and privileged section. So this is in contrast to Western democracies. In the USA, poor people vote much less than the rich people. Basically, common people in India attach a lot of importance to election. They feel that their vote matters in the way that affairs are managed in the country. So, the interest of the voters in election related activities has been increasing over the years. Do you know, children, during the 2004 elections, more than 1/3 voters took part in campaign related activities. More than half of the people identified themselves as being close to one or the other political party. Even 1 out of every 7 voters is a member of a political party. Okay. Now, next, the third is acceptance of election outcome. Now the final test of free and fair election is the outcome itself. If the election are not free or fair, the outcome always favors the powerful. But in India, this is not true. The following facts can be cited as the valid reason of this assertion. First, the ruling parties. The ruling parties even lose elections in India, both at national and the state level. In fact, in every 2 out of the 3 elections held in the last 15 years, the ruling party lost. Candidates who are known to have spent a lot of money on buying votes and those who known criminal connections often lose elections. In India, about half of the sitting MPs or MLAs lose election. And as I said, candidates who are known to have spent a lot of money on buying votes often lose election. Now, it is very common now for the Election Commission to reprimand the government and administration for their lapses. People participate in it with enthusiasm. So, the electoral outcomes are usually accepted as people's verdict by the defeated party. So, is it clear how can we check the quality of the election process? First, an independent election commission. So, in our country, elections are conducted by an independent and a very powerful election commission. It enjoys the same kind of independence that the judiciary enjoys. Next, we discussed popular participation. So, in India, the poor, illiterate and underprivileged people vote in larger proportion as compared to the rich and the privileged section. This is in the contrast to Western democracies, like for example, as I told you, in the United States of America, poor people, African Americans and Hispanics vote much less than the rich and the white people. Then we have discussed acceptance of election outcomes. So the outcome of India's election speak for itself. The ruling parties lose elections in India both at the national and the state levels. In fact, in every 2 out of 3 elections held in the last 15 years, the ruling party lost. Next is regular elections. So in India, the Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha elections are held regularly after every 5 years. So after the 5 years, the term of all the elected representatives comes to an end. Clear? Now, so here are the major challenges to free and fair elections. Or we can say that challenges faced by the election system in India. In some constituencies in our country, in sub-constituencies, a few candidates may win purely on the basis of money power and unfair means. Now, this situation brings many limitations and challenges to the Indian election procedure, which includes first, use of money. Now in India, in democratic country, candidates and the political parties with a lot of money may not be sure of their victory, but they do enjoy a big and unfair advantage over smaller parties and independents. Next, criminal and politics. So in some part of our country, candidates with the criminal connection have been. So they all able to push others out of the electoral race and to secure a ticket from the major parties. Next, nepotism. Nepotism, that means some families they tend to dominate political parties. Tickets are distributed only to their relatives from these families. Corrupt politicians. So most of the candidates are corrupt. in our country, and very often election offer little choice to the ordinary citizens. Right? So very often elections offer a little choice to the ordinary citizens, for the major parties are quite similar to one another, both in policies and in practices. So smaller parties and independent candidates, they suffer a lot, huge disadvantage compared to the bigger parties. So it is due to these reasons that citizens, social activists and organizations have been demanding reforms in our electoral system. So is it clear? So children, here we have completed this chapter. Now it's quiz time. So the first question is, who appoints the Chief Election Commissioner of India? Now options are: first, the President of India. Option B, the Governor. And the option C, the Council of Ministers. So, who appoints the Chief Election Commissioner of India? Yes, option A is the correct, the President of India. Next question is, who is responsible for free and fair elections in India? Now, who is the responsible? Option A is the Prime Minister, option B is President, and option C is the Election Commissioner. So, who is responsible for free and fair election in India? Yes, option C, Election Commissioner is responsible for free and fair elections in India. Now, question number 3. When government officers work in election duty, so at that time they work under the control of dash. Now options are the government, option B the parliament, and option C is election commission. So at that time all the government officers, they work under the control of election commission, right? Not the government. Clear? At that time the government officers, they work under the control of election commission. So correct answer is C. Now question number 4. MP and MLAs stand for. So MP means member of parliament and MLAs means minister of legislative assembly. Now question number 5 is, how many seats are reserved for the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes in the Lok Sabha? So this we have discussed in the second part of this chapter. So I thought you all know the answer. So basically 84 seats are reserved for the scheduled caste in Lok Sabha election, and 47 seats are reserved for the scheduled tribes. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you. Have a nice day.